Good morning. Welcome to yoga, Hatha Yoga with Carol. I don't really know who's all out there, but hello to each one of you individually, whoever you are. Beautiful weather. And first off, thank you very much to Natalia last week for covering for me. I wasn't able to be here. I was able to get away. We were just talking. I was able to get away to my cabin in BC, which technically we're not supposed to be doing, but we got some early spring stuff done, and we'll stay away now until further notice. But so I missed coming in last week. I did do Natalia's class, which was kind of fun, which was great. This week, last week was a big one. To miss in that I know I was caught up with a lot of other people in all the things that are going on in the US and everywhere. Some of this, I shouldn't say some of this. I think hopefully that we all have this feeling right now that there's more that we need to do. There's more that we need to say. And so a little bit about what I'll be talking about today, what I really feel in this situation and in many situations is we need to learn to be uncomfortable and kind of stay uncomfortable. And we can put that into physical terms, certainly social justice terms, and lots of other things. So I will touch on that a little without getting too preachy. I think we can all spend some time thinking about what our role is in racism here and what we're seeing in the U.S. So, but importantly, we are going to move. So let's make our way to wherever. I'll make my way to where I'm going to have my comfortable seat. And I was just going to point out, I know a lot of you probably or maybe did order the kind of the necklace that was created. And I'm not a short necklace person, so I have my favorite long chain now that I'm wearing, my pause and lotus. And the gem is not coming to the top of my head. Yeah. Anyways, nice to have it. I might have to take it off through practice. But so let's close down our eyes, coming to notice the breath. Slowing down the inhales, slowing down the exhales. And maybe even beginning to count. So maybe my inhale is a count of 2, 3, 4. We'll all be in a little bit different place. But once we have figured out the length of our inhale, let's see if we can make our exhale exactly the same length. So if I inhale for 3, I'll exhale for 3. So this is even breath. And I know usually I teach the breath where we extend our exhale a little, which can help signal to the brain to switch into our parasympathetic nervous system. But the even breath, maybe because we're counting and we're trying to line it up, it's giving the brain a little bit of an activity. So it's also going to help calm the nervous system. I think there's a reason why in our society we often hear, when something is working you up or you feel like you're not in control of your emotions, count to 10. Well, this equal breath would be a very similar. So one thing I noticed last week is that it's really easy in these kind of times of racial inequality and social justice in the forefront. It's really easy to get worked up, whether it's in solidarity with what's going on or getting worked up because people are protesting and they're standing too close together, and the list goes on and on. There's all kinds of things that can work us up. So having these techniques to calm the emotions, so maybe we don't do or say something we'll regret, or maybe even feeding into those emotions. That's a skill that most of us probably are working on a daily basis. Can I use sometimes that anger to maybe push me to do something a little more uncomfortable than I might normally? Just a few more of those equal breaths. Hopefully feeling the shoulders starting to sink away from the ears, the hands sinking heavy into the lap, the sit bones sinking heavy into the mat. And then let's slowly open our eyes. We'll start by warming up our neck, dropping the chin to chest, looking to the left, lifting the chin back up, and then dropping the chin back down as we move the neck to the right and lifting back up. So if I had a pencil on my nose, I'm kind of drawing that smiley face. And then coming back to center. Let's bring the left hand down, stretching it a little bit further away, but still making contact with the mat. Let's reach the right arm up and over, and bending over to the left. And then taking this right hand, reaching it forward, so kind of bringing the torso and the whole arm forward, stretching the fingertips as far as is comfortable. And then stretching the right hand to the mat, left arm up and over. Again, stretching and reaching that left arm forward, leaning as far forward as comfortable, and then coming back up. This time, let's reach the right arm up, reaching it forward, left arm up. So you might not get the sequence exactly as I'm doing. I kind of changed up the movement. But it doesn't matter if the sequence is exactly like mine. We're just moving and stretching and reaching. And then coming back to center. If our legs are crossed, let's switch up which way they're crossed, just to even out for the rest of our warm-up. Let's inhale the arms up overhead. And then on the exhale, I'm going to open my arms, bringing my right hand behind me, left hand to my right knee into a twist. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist left. So let's do that a couple more times. And one more time each side. Inhale, arms back up, and then let's exhale the hands together in prayer. Excellent. We'll just finish up with some torso circles, just finishing warming up the body, leaning forward, over to the right as far as is comfortable. Maybe arching the back as I roll through the back to the left. I can bend my elbows, move my torso however feels best to work into those nooks and crannies. Let's change direction. come back to center. Excellent. Let's come around onto our hands and knees. This might be where I need to take off my... Oh, not going to work with my... I thought I had it all figured out today. That's okay. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Let's coming up onto the toes if that feels better for the ankles. Let's inhale, lifting the chest, pointing the tailbone to the ceiling. Exhale, rounding the back, chin to chest. Tailbone points down. Moving back and forth, cat-cow, warming up the spine. And then let's bring the spine back to neutral. Pushing the hips back towards the heels. Doesn't matter how close they get. You can reach the arms a little more forward. And then on the inhale, let's come back to all fours. And then exhale, begin to bring the hips towards the mat. So you can lift the chest. You can not bring the hips as deep if that's not working for wrists or shoulders. Exhale, hips back to heels. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, hips towards the mat. Maybe lifting the chest and the gaze into cobra. So I've always called this dancing cobra. Really nice warm up for hips, shoulders, wrists. This time when we come up to all fours, let's pause here. Walking the hands back to the knees. Let's bring the right knee forward. Maybe walking it just a little bit forward, the foot forward of the knee. So I've got some space to come forward, bringing the knee over the ankle. Feeling that stretch in the left hip. Inhaling, arms overhead, letting the shoulders relax down the back. Palms may be facing, slight bend in the elbows. Low lunge. So this will become part of our Vinyasa sequence. We're going to move through a little slower in the first round. Exhale, we have a choice to frame the foot and step back, or bring both hands to the inside, stepping the right knee back. We'll exhale, push the hips back to the heels, reaching the arms a little forward. Inhale to all fours. Exhale, hips towards the mat. Again, you don't need to bring them very deep. Inhale to all fours, walking the hands back, bringing the left foot forward. Again, walking that foot a little bit, so I've got some space to come forward, stretching the front of the right hip, arms overhead, relaxing the shoulders. And then on the exhale, maybe bringing that left foot a little closer to the body. At least that's what I need to do. Framing that front foot, coming up on the right toe, lifting the right leg or knee, and then bringing that right foot forward to forward fold. So knees can be deeply bent, particularly this first fold, belly resting on thighs, fingers reaching down towards the mat. Might sway a few times. Can let the head hang heavy. You might reach for opposite elbows. Maybe even bringing a little twist in, if that feels okay. And then exhale, fingers back down towards the mat. Maybe imagining you're lifting the sit bones a little, just stretching the backs of the legs. Exhale, fold. This time we'll inhale, bring hands to shins, shoulder blades back. As I'm pressing into the shins, I'm just reaching forward with the crown of my head, just peeking over the end of the mat. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up, rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. So we'll move through one full of this vinyasa that we'll move through. It is actually one of the versions of a moon salutation. Inhale, arms up. We had a beautiful full moon over the weekend. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, deep bend in the knees. Let's come down to all fours. Inhale, kind of lifting the spine up into that cat, rounding the spine. Exhale, hips back towards the heels, reaching the arms forward. Inhale to all fours. Exhale, bring the hips as close to the mat as is comfortable for you. Inhale, all fours, walking the hands back. Right foot forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands down. Knee back. Exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, cobra. Inhale, all fours, walking the hands back. Bringing the left foot forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, framing the foot, lifting the right knee, right foot forward, or coming to forward fold in whatever way works for you. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. So one of the downsides to these classes is not being able to see everyone in the room. I don't know if anybody is having trouble with coming into that forward fold. So hopefully all of you know at this point that if you need to come up with your own version of how to move into something, please do. There's no right or wrong way unless I think you're going to hurt yourself. Hopefully everyone has got enough knowledge at this point to not be doing something that's going to hurt them. Yeah. Kyle's doing his own little practice in the corner there. So feet hip distance. We can maybe make those few wiping motions just to find that space right beneath the hip bones. Let's inhale the shoulders up to the ears, rolling them down and back. Palms forward. Mountain pose, closing the eyes if that's comfortable. Just really feeling that connection between the bottom of the feet and the floor. This is one of the best ways for us to hopefully begin to feel grounded. Coming back maybe to that equal breath, spending that few moments counting the inhale, counting the exhale. And then on the inhale, let's bring the arms up overhead. We'll interlock the fingers, bringing out the two pointer fingers, lifting up and out of the waist, and then bending over to the left, pushing the hips to the right. Let's inhale through center, bending over to the right, pushing the hips to the left. Inhale back to center. Exhale, bending to the left. Now we're going to move a little different. So do it. We'll move slowly the first time. You can just see if this is going to work for your body. I'm going to start to reach those arms forward and actually sort of swing my arms to the right and then back up, coming right into the bend on the left side. So if that doesn't feel good for your back, then your fingers aren't going to come very low. But if you think that's okay for your low back, keeping the knees soft, you might almost point those fingers right down to the floor and come back up. Let's do that back and forth one more time. Kind of getting the whole torso involved. And then come back to center. Exhale, arms back down at our sides. We'll move through our Vinyasa. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Deep bend in the knees, coming all the way down to all fours. On the inhale, let's push up into cat. Exhale, hips to heels. Reaching the arms a little more forward. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, hips towards the mat. Inhale, all fours, walking the hands back. Right foot forward. That should have been an exhale. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bringing that right knee back. Hips to heels. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, cobra. Inhale, all fours. Walking the hands back. I need to put an exhale in there somewhere. Let's bring that left foot forward. Inhale, arms up. And then exhale, reaching the hands down. Maybe lifting that right knee. Stepping the right foot forward. A forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Shoulders back. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. So stepping back with the left foot into warrior two. So that back foot is more or less parallel to the short edge of the mat. The front foot heel lines up with the arch. Hands on hips. Let's just check our stance. Doesn't matter if the knee goes a little past the ankle, but if you can really comfortably bend deeper, you might either widen or even shorten the stance if that feels better. Today, it might be different each day you come in to this posture. Inhaling the arms to shoulder height. Quick look at that back arm just to see if it is where we think it is. Settling the gaze over the middle front finger. And again, maybe pointing that right knee more towards the pinky side of the front foot. I know my knee wants to collapse towards the big toe. I'm pressing down and out with my feet as if I was trying to move them away from each other on the mat. That activates my legs. Warrior two. Lots of, what would be the word? Lots of warriors out on the streets in the last few weeks. Lots of time spent thinking, what is it I can do to help be a warrior? Exhale, dropping the arm back, and then just like our side, our half moon, we're lifting up and out of the waist and then back over to the left. So we're trying not to just collapse. So that lifting of the chest, the arm can curve back. Reverse. Still have the bend in the front knee. Inhaling the arms back to shoulder height. Let's lower the arms. Pivot the right foot forward. I want the knees soft. Hands at the tops of the thighs. Let's slowly fold forward. Coming halfway, so hands are just above the knees. And then feel that tilt of pointing the tailbone to the ceiling. And then continuing to fold. Hands can stay on the legs. They might reach down to fingertips or palms on the floor. You can have a deep bend in the knees if needed. If it feels okay, you can let the chin come to chest, looking back behind through the legs. Bending the elbows if the head's getting a little closer to the mat. Itchy nose today. And maybe seeing if you can come back to that equal breathing. And then walking the hands forward, and then maybe even a little wider than shoulders, pretty much keeping my hips exactly where they are, but I might bring my shoulders so they're a little more over my wrists. So this is a wide-legged down dog. I find it a little more accessible if you are protecting wrists and shoulders, which I am definitely still protecting my right shoulder a bit, because I find more of the weight is in our legs in this version. One more breath. And then walking the hands back, slight bend in the knees, hands to the sides of the legs. Let's really press into the outside edges of the feet to slowly roll ourselves back to standing. Heel toe the feet together. Come to stand on the top of the mat. I don't know if you could hear the bike repair side of the business with the little bell ringing. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Deep bend the knees, coming down all the way to all fours. Inhale, let's round the back. Exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, hips towards the mat, maybe lifting the chest. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, walking the hands back, right foot forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands down. Inhale, let's come into that cow back or cat back again. Exhale, walking the hands back, left foot forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, lifting the right knee, maybe lifting the right foot forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up, rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. So we'll step back this time with the right foot. Legs length or maybe more. Again, checking the stance each time. Inhaling the arms to shoulder height. All good warriors look behind them, so let's have a look. See if that back arm is where we think it is. Bending into that right knee, pressing down and out with the feet as if I was trying to move them away from each other on the mat. Maybe spiraling this thigh a little to point the knee more towards the pinky side of the foot. Maybe counting, coming to equal breath. Spending a moment in gratitude, thinking of the warriors who are really putting their lives at the forefront of Black Lives Matter, risking their health. Exhale, dropping the back arm down the back leg, lifting the left arm to the ceiling, maybe bending the arm, bringing the hand back, lifting up and out of the waist, reverse warrior. And spending a few moments thinking about those that are protecting us and property. A moment thinking of all those who are really going through tough times, especially in the US during this conflict. Inhaling the arms back to shoulder height. Let's lower the arms, straightening that leg, pivoting the foot forward, but this time we will bring the feet together right away. Coming to stand at the top of the mat, let's move through our Vinyasa. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Deep bend in the knees, coming down to all fours. Inhale, let's round the back. Exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, hips towards the mat. Inhale, all fours, walking the hands back. Low lunge. Exhale, hips to heels. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, hips towards the mat. Walking the hands back, bringing the left knee forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, lifting the right knee, bringing the right foot forward. Forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. So we're going to come into our balance. I know anyone who's been a student for a while, you're probably familiar with this balance. It's called Message of Shiva. So we'll bring our feet hip distance apart. I always need to bring my notes a little closer because there is a message. Shifting the weight into the left leg, I'm going to bend my right knee and hook my right big toe somewhere behind my calf. It might be higher, might be lower. It's dependent on this right knee for the most part. And then palm forward, fingers up with the right hand, palm forward, fingers down with the left. Just like in any balance, not holding your breath, finding that spot in the ceiling, touching the toe down if needed for balance, which I'm going to do so I can read. So the right hand is the Abhyaya Mudra, which is turning away fear. And the left hand is the Varuda Mudra, which is a gesture of mercy. One more big breath. And then we can release the hands, give them a little shake. Stepping that right foot back down. Let's take the left foot. Maybe do a few ankle circles, a little shake. We tend to grip the mat with our standing foot, which is why often we feel that tension at the end of our balance. So we'll shift the weight now into the right leg, bending up the left, hooking the toe anywhere behind the calf or the ankle. The hands are the same, so right hand, palm forward, fingers up. Left hand, palm forward, fingers down. And finding that spot, not holding your breath. I find this pose a little more accessible than tree because the leg doesn't need to be open maybe as far to the side. And I think the message of Shiva is an important message at all times. But maybe especially now, turning away fear. I think a lot of what we go through and struggle with is fear-based. And a gesture of mercy. Let's release the foot, give the hands a shake, give the right ankle a shake. And we'll move through our final sort of a half Vinyasa to bring us down to the mat. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Deep bend in the knees, coming down to all fours. But this time we'll bring the knees wide, toes to touch, hips back towards the heels, reaching the arms forward, or stacking hands or fists to rest the forehead. You can keep the knees closer together and stay up on the toes if that feels better for your ankles. Finding the shape that works for you. Some of us might bring our hands together in prayer and then lifting them up behind, so the wrists are behind the neck, fingers pointed to the ceiling. Choosing whatever works for you to stay for several breaths. And first off, maybe returning to that equal breath. So this is also a mudra if you are in the shape with the hands behind the head. It is Sanjali, the Mudra of Humility. And it also has a little message and I teach these fairly regularly, and I love that you are bringing your whole body into a shape of humility. And the message is, let your thoughts be humble and actions be for the good of all. And I think sometimes these simple messages, so starting off with turning away fear and a gesture of mercy, keeping your thoughts humble and your actions for the good of all. So when I have those messages that resonate for me, and maybe they do or don't resonate for you, they're almost like my touchstone when I feel like I need to respond to something, or I haven't decided if I should go ahead with an action or not. Sometimes if I pass it through those statements, and everyone's going to have different statements, and certainly I have other ones other than just those. But it kind of helps me decide particularly when emotions can very much be ruling the things we say and do, when people are very emotional on, I don't want to say both sides of because I'd hate to think that I'm having to engage in conversation with somebody who is really, really racist. I'm very fortunate. I don't think I've had to deal with that. But I know there's people who feel like this conflict means that we don't trust and believe in what police do either. So that's kind of the two sides, I guess, I'm thinking about, that people can be very emotional on either side. And so I'm trying very hard to find the balance. So using those statements might help me balance out a more emotional response. And just a couple more breaths. Inhale, let's come back up to all fours, rolling onto the right or left hip. We'll bring the legs out wide as is comfortable. Maybe you do want to sit on a blanket or a towel just to lift the pelvis up a little bit. You might even pull a little bit of extra flesh away from the sit bones. I usually like to do this posture with a bolster, but not knowing what everyone has. Let's reach the arms forward from the shoulders and reach as far as is comfortable. And then letting the hands come down. Let's keep the back relatively flat for now. If you find it easier to hold on to some part of the legs, feel free. But before we round our back, I want to lift up with the chest, and this could be a really tiny movement. And then exhale, maybe the hands come a little further. I might now round my back, let my chin come to chest. Again, I can hold on to my legs, I can hold on to my toes. But if I'm holding on to my toes and I'm having to reach and stretch, and because I think it's more important to hold my toes, I want my shoulders still to be relaxed and away from my ears. Again, the hands can be in front if that feels better. Most of us are going to feel a stretch somewhere I'm feeling it more between the knees and the groin. With each exhale, I'm still feeling like I'm trying to bring that roundness out of my back. So I'm trying to feel my chest fall forward a little. So for a lot of us, this is not a comfortable posture. It might even be one either wide-legged or the legs forward fold that we might even actively avoid. Because for a lot of us, this could be our forward fold. And I forgot to even mention, if coming forward is really just not working for you, bring the hands behind you and just lift the chest. But what I've often said in these postures, whether it's seated forward fold or this wide-legged version, is we often have to sit in discomfort in order for things to change. And I also need to accept that the change might not happen. So I'm okay at my age to accept the fact that I'm probably not going to put my torso on the floor in front of me. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to sit and maybe feel that some of the tissues in my hips or my shoulders or the insides of my legs might release just a little. And I also love the analogy of we can, I think of examples in lots of different parts of our lives where we need to get uncomfortable before we can maybe affect some change. So I thought about whether it was appropriate for me today to kind of share my views on what's going on. And my view is certainly not the only view, but hopefully just sharing the options of the things that we can all do to start thinking about it a little more, how we might support or represent this movement. Inhale, let's walk the hands a little bit closer to the body, bringing the legs together, hands behind. We can just lift the chest, lifting the gaze. Excuse me. A little bit of a counter stretch. And then let's bring the soles of the feet together. Doesn't matter how close the heels are to the body. Again, just a little bit of a counter stretch now. That was mostly, for me anyways, the inside of the thigh. So this is a seated butterfly. And really for a lot of us, just sitting up tall is probably plenty of stretch on the outer hip. But we might also be able to maybe press in to the sides of the thighs. You might be able to grab onto the toes and reach a little further forward. Coming back to that equal breath. And then inhale, sitting back up, stretching the legs out in front of us. Let's bounce the knees up and down a few times, just releasing any extra tension. Just before we move down, let's bring our hands back behind. I know I don't know who all came to the sort of foot practice that I had, but I said I was going to start inserting some of the things that we were doing into each practice. So before we come down onto our backs, I like this one, so I bend my left knee and I place that kind of Achilles, I guess, part of the right foot, the right heel, in between my big toe. I might be able to stretch that leg back out And just creating that space. And then seeing if I can insert it into any other. I find it easier to bend the foot first. Find that spot and then maybe stretch it out a little. So we'll just do this for a little bit before we go down. But it's something, like I said, if you find yourself even sitting watching a television show. Now as I get to the tighter toes, it's a little less easy to do this. And just sitting with the feet like this really helps bring some mobility to the toes. Okay, the challenge is going to be getting it in between that pinky toe. Might not happen. Doing our best. Let's switch sides. It's always easiest between the big toe and the second toe. And I think if you do this on a regular basis, we do it for longer, for sure. But I just wanted to remind everyone of what we're doing. It gets harder and harder for me as I get to those toes near the end. They're the ones that tend to get squashed by the shoes. Though I've certainly been noticing after several months of I can't get that one between the baby toe. Let's just stretch the legs out and do a few circles. Those months of spending a little bit more time indoors when the weather wasn't so great, wearing more slippers and sandals in the house. Putting on runners the other day felt really weird on my feet, so I think actually I've got a little bit more mobility in my toes than I would have normally, just not spending as much time with them constricted. So let's come around, come on to our backs. Feet hip distance. Let's start by bringing the feet to the outside edges of the mat, and let's just let them windshield wiper a few times back and forth. And then bringing them back to hip distance. Let's bring the right ankle in front of the left knee. So we're coming into figure 4 stretch. So we have lots of choices. For some of us, this is going to be enough of a stretch. But we can also lift that left foot. And you can stay here holding the feet. You can reach through. Now I'm not reaching through and grabbing my left thigh because that actually aggravates my shoulder, which I am trying to protect. Trying to remind myself to stop doing the movements that aggravate it. Seems like a simple concept, but I think most of us struggle with it. But I can also hold on. I find it, I can still deepen the stretch by holding on to that front leg and still helping me pull it closer, feeling the stretch more into the right hip, maybe even the right glute a little. Maybe coming back to those equal breaths. And then exhale, lowering the foot, keeping the legs exactly the way they are. Instead of dropping the feet to the left, which I know we've done in the past, let's reach the arms out to the side, palms up or palms down, whatever feels better for your shoulders. And let the knees fall to the right. So if this is just way too much for the low back, unhook that top foot, coming into the twist with the knees on top of each other or the legs on top of each other. But it doesn't matter if the legs touch all the way down. This top foot is just maybe deepening the stretch in the left hip. But it can definitely aggravate the low back. So don't hold on to the shape because you think it's bigger or better for the stretch. Because if we do one thing to stretch the hip but end up with a really sore low back, We're not really accomplishing anything. As with any twist, you can turn the gaze towards or away from the knees. You can look up at the ceiling. Next inhale, let's bring the knees back to center. Uncross the feet. Let's just bring the feet to the outside edges again. Just a little bit of windshield wipers to release any tension. And then crossing the left ankle in front of the right knee. Maybe lifting the right foot. Maybe reaching through and grabbing that right thigh. Or like I said, you can also just hold on to this front leg. I still find that intensifies the stretch without having to stretch too deeply to reach my thigh. Coming back to that equal breath. Exhale, lowering that right foot. Bringing the arms out to the sides again. This time, I might have to move my mic pack here. This time letting the legs fall to the left. Now what was available on one side might not be on the other. So if you need to unhook the feet, please do. Sometimes straightening that bottom leg can dial down the intensity a little as well. And then choosing whether you look at away from the knees or up at the ceiling. And coming back to those equal breaths. Then inhale, bringing the knees back to center, uncrossing the legs. Let's bring the feet out let's bring the soles of the feet together. Letting the knees fall open. Maybe left hand on heart, right hand on belly. If this is too intense of a stretch for you for any reason and you don't have props to support the legs, bring the feet to the outside edges and let the knees fall towards one another. It's a little more supportive. Coming back to those equal breaths here. So I think one yogic concept that has keep coming to my mind, and I've seen it shared by many other teachers that I follow, the concept, the niyama svadhyaya, which is self-study. And so for these last few weeks and for the foreseeable future, I'm going to remind myself to study my own reactions and prejudices and unconscious thoughts and actions that I might not even realize are rooted in racism, colonialism. I mean, really, we're all practicing the practice of yoga, many will call cultural appropriation. And how do I feel about that? Where do I sit with that? Lots of opportunity for svadhyaya. The next inhale, let's bring our knees back together, feet to the outside edges of the mat, and then we will let the knees fall towards one another. Really stretch the feet out as wide as is possible. It will help deepen the stretch in the outer hip. And then we're ready for our Shavasana. So coming into the shape that works for you. Maybe you tuck something behind the knees. I like to come into the shape I call bed to myself. So feet reaching down to the opposite corners of the mat. Arms stretched out wide, so my shoulder blades are flat to the mat. Maybe you've got an eye pillow or a face cloth. You can cover your eyes. If you're in an especially bright room, which is the case these days, which is wonderful. So I'm going to do something a little different in Shavasana today. I have a longer poem to read, so I'm going to read it while you're still in your Shavasana state. So I'm not going to bring everyone out. Well, I guess I will still bring everyone out, but know, as always, that if you want to stay in your Shavasana after I ask us to come out, please feel free to do so. But you will hear me start to talk and read the poem before I actually get us to move out of our Shavasana pose. So take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, allow your body to relax. Raise your shoulders to your ears, and then relax them, dropping them into a comfortable position, feeling them sink into the mat. Allow your jaw to drop slightly, letting the muscles of your face and jaw become loose and relaxed. Wiggle your toes once or twice and feel your feet and legs relaxing. Gently open and close your hands once and again, and then relax your hands and arms. Take a deep breath in, feeling the tension in your chest and stomach as you hold the breath, and then allow your chest and stomach to relax as the breath escapes slowly. Allow the muscles of your back to relax from your neck to your upper back, middle back, lower back, feeling your whole body relaxing. Notice any areas of tension in your body and see if you can relax those areas now. Rest here. I'll bring you back in a moment. I'm going to share with you the poem Shavasana by Irene Mckinney. You've put yourself through everything you could think of, deliberately, though at the time it just seemed to happen. You've pitched and twisted, tripped and grimaced. You've run after and been pursued. You've been ugly and frightened and murderous and dull. Now you lie on your back with your palms turned up and say, I give it up. Whatever falls out of my hands, falls out of my hands. My eyelids slip down and my mouth falls open. Whoever cares can go on caring. Someone will step into place and take it over. I do not care. Finally, my back is lying exactly on the ground, with no kinks and loops, and all unentwined. You can begin to take in some deeper breaths if you're choosing to come out of Shavasana. Maybe opening and closing the hands a few times. moving the feet. Inhale, reaching the arms up overhead. Exhale, letting them come back down to the sides. And drop the left ear to the left shoulder. Bring the head through center. Drop the right ear to the right shoulder. Come back to center. Maybe bring the knees into the chest, giving them a nice tight squeeze. Rolling a few times from side to side. And then maybe coming back up to seated, bringing the hands together in prayer. Thank you very much for sharing your practice with me this morning. Namaste.